Imagine, if you will, your tenant has just given 30-day notice. However, you count on the rent to pay the mortgage and cover other expenses. You can't just let the home sit vacant. So you check your lease agreement and make sure you have the right to show the property while the tenants are still there, and to your relief, you do. You instruct your property manager to dig out the old marketing pictures and put the home on the market immediately. You want showings to begin ASAP and even ask about the possibility of an open house. Is this a good idea? I'll explain. Should you advertise an occupied property for lease? No, you should not advertise an occupied property for lease. As good of an idea as it may seem, there are some real drawbacks to actively marketing occupied properties for lease. Here we will outline 10 reasons not to put occupied properties on the market for lease. We will also address when you can show an occupied property and talk about how your property manager can help. 10 reasons not to advertise occupied properties for rent. Number 1, it burdens the tenants. Filling a vacancy usually takes several showings, which needs to be arranged with your current tenants. It can easily take up to a dozen showings or more. Even the most understanding tenant will start to become uncooperative after about the third showing, and you may want their cooperation later on. Number 2, shows poorly. You only get one chance to make a first impression. If the current occupant has boxes on the floor and everything's in disarray while packing, the place will show poorly. Number 3, bad energy. Just because your tenant allows showings does not mean they will be baking cookies and acting friendly. If your current tenant is giving the prospective tenant the stink eye, your prospective tenants will move on to the next place. Number 4, hard to show. Just because your current tenants say they will allow showings, it does not mean they will say yes when it actually comes time. Tenants will often come up with excuses and may even refuse entry once an appointment is set. This passive-aggressive tactic is very common. Number 5, extra risk. Remember, you are essentially walking people you do not know through an occupied property. What if something goes missing? Your tenants will suspect it was from the showing. A disgruntled tenant could even make a false accusation. Either way, allowing strangers through an occupied home creates an extra level of liability. Number 6, days on market. If your property is listed on the market but not available to be shown or is particularly difficult to show, it will start to accumulate days on market, giving the impression that nobody's interested. This may cause people to skip viewing it altogether, or at least cause them to make lowball offers just like they do in the for sale market. Number 7, prospects visualize themselves. Prospective tenants may be hesitant about what will be required when they leave and whether they will have to allow showings. Remember that the tenants looking at your place will be leaving somewhere else where they probably don't have to have showings. Number 8, red flag on the landlord. Today's tenants have concerns about pushy or aggressive landlords. Having a property on the market while the current tenants are still living there may concern prospective tenants. Number 9, need time to make ready. Having the new tenant's move-in date too close to the old tenant's move-out date may not give you enough time to make the property rent ready. This turns the make-ready process into an emergency, creating greater chances for mistakes and potentially increasing the cost for overtime and rush fees. Number 10, tenant holdover. What if the tenant does not get out as agreed and you have already signed a legally binding lease with someone else? Now you have a huge problem, pretty much of your own creation. You can't legally force your current tenant to immediately get out. Now you face a legal obligation with your new tenant that will probably not go your way in court. Is it ever okay to show an occupied property for lease? Although it's a bad idea to advertise an occupied property, there are a few special circumstances where it's okay to show an occupied property. Let's call them Goldilocks situations where everything is just right. It may happen when you have multiple rental properties in the same general market area and you have a great candidate that applied for a similar property but lost out to another applicant. Then maybe if the tenant is amenable to showing, you might be able to arrange something. We do this when we can. However, it's a very special situation and there are risks. You have to have excellent tenant relations and be very careful doing so. Just like Goldilocks, these special situations are more like a fairy tale and you don't want to get caught by the three bears. What can your manager do to help? A property manager can soft market your upcoming vacancy to prospects looking at comparable homes. Sometimes prospective tenants are looking for homes a couple months in advance, and most landlords won't hold a property for that long, when it can be leased out much quicker. A property manager should be keeping track of what's coming up and inform prospective tenants of when appropriate. People love to know what's about to hit the market. This way, when your property is ready to go, there will be prospects waiting to jump at the chance. Bottom line, don't advertise your occupied properties for lease. You will burden your tenants, your property will show poorly, and there will likely be bad energy. It will be hard to show, you will be taking extra risk and accumulating more days on market. The prospective tenants will visualize having to deal with showings during their time as tenants, and it raises a red flag regarding the landlord in general. Most of all, you may not have the time to make the unit ready for the next tenant, and you run the risk that your current tenant might not get out as agreed, putting you in legal jeopardy. Sure, there may be special Goldilocks situations where tenants are found while a property is occupied, but they are more often than not fairy tales. If you do make these arrangements, you need to be very careful that you have allowed enough time to make ready and address the possibility that your current tenant may not get out in time. You just need to be careful not to jump the gun where you're more likely to create problems than you are to reduce vacancy time. Of course, at the Mike Dunfee Group, we would be happy to discuss marketing and showing strategies along with any other of your property management and real estate brokerage needs in the Long Beach, Los Angeles, and Orange County areas. We are here to help.